Yo, everybody, what is up? OCD Mikey, Hi-Fi Guy here at your service for another question and answer session. Um, so everybody will allow everybody to come on in and chalk up in the queue, and then we can. And again, as always, I'm open to any questions. You just fire away with anything you want to know. I'll answer to my best ability. Um, and we can talk about anything you want to talk about. Mark is here, says sounds like more fun, Mikey. Interesting to listen to the designers of the tweak companies, but honestly, I like it when you talk about your gear and what has made your rig better. Well, you know what that is. Playback Designs, Fisher and Fisher, Audio Analog, Jeff Rowland. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. ASC tube traps, and AC Puritan AC power filters. It's pretty simple. I don't have that much different things that I've done to the system. I've learned a lot from you, and because of what I think my system, because of that, I think my system is pretty maxed out with the gear and room that it's in. Awesome. That's great. That's great news, man. Uptown Reef, Ted better be on shrooms tonight. He's going to join us partway in. He's not coming right off the cuff. He's going to join us partway in. I talked to him just recently, and he just got in. He's also a motorcyclist. He's been out riding all day, and he got in, and so he's going to get shower and get ready and come on. Yo, what's up, Tommy? Good to see you, brother. SR pink fuses are amazing. I got your pink fuse. How can you not respond to that with my response? I mean, that was a wide door. Hello, everybody. Should be an interesting live stream. You know it, Alexander. Welcome. Thank you for showing up. Birdie, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Charles. Charles is on the stream from the other room. Charles is visiting. He's in town from LA. I was lucky enough that Charles came out to help me. And he's here for the next 10 days. Today, we got some major accomplishments done in the room. That whole rack of gear that I showed you the other day is out of the room, and it's in the storage. I have a barn in back. We put it in there. We started loading it up tomorrow. All that stuff's going to go back into its shipping boxes, and then it's going to be sitting on shelves ready to ship after we document what is available. So that'll be cool. Hey, Mikey, hope everyone is good. What's up, Westafarian? Good to see you, brother. We won't tell him why I call you Westafari, but he is Westafari. So, yeah, we've been working on the room. The room is going to be done shortly. It's just, time to just change it, do the next level. Okay, so Daniel, hey Tribe, best tweaks for speaker isolation feet, Live Vibe. Live Vibe is my favorite. There's some others out there, but I like Live Vibe audio. And again, we will do a live stream someday with Robert of Live Vibe or Tom DeVono, and we will talk about what the difference is between isolation and rigid coupling. They're two totally different things. And isolation is different. It's all the basically, as the argument goes or the theory goes, everything is coupled as long as there is no isolation. There is no decoupling unless you have space where there's no gravity, right? Then there's decoupling. Otherwise, everything is coupled, very much so. And it's just, is it coupled in a efficient manner or is it inefficiently coupled? Are you just draining the vibration out? Are you trying to turn the vibration into heat, which is a slower process than just draining it away? And it has two different sonic attributes. So interesting discussion. Love the channel, says Dynamite. I like cats, like Ted, who think outside the box. Yeah, that's why Teddy and I get along. Not because we both like guns and motorcycles and automatic knives and shit like that, but we both came from nothing and created our own audio company. Of course, Ted is far more successful than I am in doing that. He started long before I did, and he stuck to it with his cables and his tweaks and all his other stuff. and he's done very well. But he does think outside the box. Neither one of us are rich kids. Neither one of us came from, you know, the software industry or some shit into this industry. You know, a lot of your dealers are just dudes from other industries that, you know, decided they could retire, and then they just do something to make money now that they're retired. And they're really just, they brought money from somewhere else, and then they're just trying to turn their money over. You know, Teddy and I came from nothing. He didn't come from money. I didn't come from money. I've earned everything from the 2 nickels. Let's put it this way. I have been in my life, I have gone from panhandling for money in Los Angeles, asking people for spare in actually, I panhandled in San Francisco, asking people for spare change to eat food. Like, that's how down and out I was. And no, I was not a heroin addict or anything, crackhead or anything like that. But there were just situation that happened, da da da. I had no income and no support and no parents to pay me out of it or whatever. So if I wanted to eat that day, I had to, holy shit, go down to the street and ask for spare change. So that's where I've been, and then I've come to where I am now, and paid off a house, paid off 7 motorcycles. I mean, those weren't even financed. All my cars, you know, whatever, you know, yada yada. So the United States is a great place. We can, and Teddy, similar story, man. From I don't know if he was ever rags. I think he's college educated, and a little more polished than I am. But nonetheless, I think it was rags to riches. So, hey, Shane, what's up? Welcome, man. Shane is in here from Melbourne, Australia. That steak company here in KC quit doing steaks. What the fuck? They were the best. So I need to test a new place they recommended first. Okay, here he is. Hang on a second. Hey, Ted.
Yeah, I'm going to log in with my phone until my iPad comes on.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's cool. What I'll do is I'll send you the link in a text message, and then you can just use your phone cam, all that shit.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Okay, you bet, man.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. See you, bye. Okay, so Ted will be joining us in a second. Let me get this. Okay, where am I? Here. Okay, I'll go like this. I will copy this. I will Gmail it. Okay, I'll go like this. I will go like this. Okay, I think that message sent. I will go like this. Excuse me, I'm getting Ted to come up here with us. So hang on. Actually, my iPhone is dead, so it's taking a charge, and when it does, I can join in. Okay, cool. Okay, and so let me go in here. Let me get this link. It's the same thing I had to do last weekend over here. Okay. Let's see. Okay, we go here. Copy URL. Go to here, go back to here, go to here, paste. Okay. There she is. Join anytime. Okay. Okay, cool. So now we have Ted. Ted's and he'll be on with us soon, as soon as he gets a little charge on his phone or something like that. Hello. Oh, wait, I missed that one. Just saw a YouTube video about Steinway Lyngdorf speakers. Ever hear them? Thoughts? It's cool that, yes, I have heard them. Did they sound good? Yes, I heard it with all the Lyngdorf product. That's the high end of the Lyngdorf. It did sound good. And it's cool that a piano company makes speakers. So good stuff. Sure. Absolutely. And Lyngdorf is from Europe. And Craig and Puttock sounds like you are in the UK, I'll bet. Is that a good guess? Craigan, or is that Scottish? It's either Scottish or British, I'm guessing. I might go with Scottish. Tell us. Hey, Scott Clark. No problem, man. You're not late. It's all good. What's up, tribe? Okay, cheers, Ted. What's up, Dan? Okay, doing it live. Uh-oh, he's got his doggy. Okay, Ted.
Hey, buddy.
Oh, that was your doggy. Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me get my speaker going again. Huh? Okay, hang on. I got to turn my speaker on. Hold on.
No problem. Want to sit on Papa's lap? Okay. No. Good boy.
Okay.
Okay. Go. Boy.
What's your doggy's name, man? He looks like his name could be Teddy.
His name is Steve.
Steve. Oh, that's right. Steve. Love it. Does he hang out with like George or something shit like that? His buddy?
He needs a buddy. I need to get him a buddy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Find the hot babe down the street, man, with the cute dog.
There is a dog down the street that he likes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome to the show. By the way, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
I just got back. I was on a long motorcycle trip. It's near the end of the season. We were ripping Ducatis and MVs.
Oh, there you go. Okay, cool, man.
With some of the fastest guys I've ever ridden with in my life.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy, huh?
Oh,
some of those guys are intense, man. You're like, holy shit, I'm outclassed, man.
It wasn't quite. No, it wasn't that. I mean,
Yeah.
usually, a lot of times guys crash when they ride with me.
Ah.
And then these guys, we were in the same ballpark, and it was intense. Total stream of consciousness riding, and
oh, I love that.
Yeah, and
awesome.
yeah.
So you had the Diavel or the other
I
one?
had my Davel and my Street Fighter V2.
Oh, okay. Oh, you got a Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Is that new?
Yeah, it's a 24.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So maybe quick, I told them you are the founder and owner of Synergistic Research, and maybe you can tell us like what did you do before audio? What got you into audio? How was Synergistic?
Audio was a hobby I had in high school.
Okay.
And it was a hobby all through my 20s, and I had a really high-paying corporate job that I absolutely did not like. I hated it.
What was it? What did you do?
I was in sales, and like Procter and Gamble was a client. It was a big deal. I was a young guy and I was making a ton of money, but I didn't like it. And audio was my hobby, and I had an epiphany one day, and that was it. I knew I was going to start a company. Shortly after that, I came up with the name Synergistic Research, because at the time, the only concern of Synergy I had was cables, and I made 4 different cables: Mark 1, 2, 3, and 4. They all had the exact same retail price, and I would mail them out to people. We sold direct. I ran a full-page ad in Stereofile. In fact, a lot of these MV guys, as it turns out, are audiophiles, the MV Augusta guys. And one of them brought the August 1992 issue of Stereofile to the meetup. And that was where I ran my first full-page ad, was in that magazine.
Okay.
Anyway, so the reason I got into it was, it's just something I wanted to do. I wanted to have my own company. I wanted to have my own business. I wanted to have my own manufacturing.
Yeah.
I didn't like, working for big companies, because they always change the rules every year and knock you back, and you got to claw your way back up again. And I thought, nah, I'll just do my own thing. And audio was my hobby, and I'd been messing around with it for about 10 years. And at that time, I hired out some engineers that were in defense contracting, McDonnell Douglas guys, and they helped me with my first designs. But shortly after that, the designs pretty much came from me. But Mark 1 through Mark 4 came from those guys. And then we had a Mark 1S and a Mark 2S speaker cable, and they both had the same price but different sound. And the intention was that I designed it to work for tubes or solid state, and then there were some variations within that, and you would just try them and hear what sounds best.
Okay, cool. What was your first of the quantum product things? Was the fuse the first thing, or was it something else?
No. No. Okay, so in 1998 or 97, I started researching active shielding for cables. And for almost I don't know how many years, over 15 years, all of my cables had a wall wart, that would plug
Yep.
into the wall. And then there'd be two leads coming out, and it would go to left or right channel on an interconnect or speaker cable or whatever. And that would put an active DC bias with current on the shield of the cable. And it opened up the sound stage and everything else. But it didn't work with all types of electronics. So that was kind of a problem. It didn't work with stuff like solution and things like that.
What did it do? Make it too sharp?
No, the circuit didn't like to see that load.
Oh, I see. I got you. Okay.
Yeah, it just didn't work. Or
Okay.
then you would have to like break the chain and not activate this preamp to power amp interconnect, or
I got you. I got you. I got you.
it's just kind of something that happened later on, and when active shielding was on the market, as electronics started to get broader and broader bandwidth. So if it's a 20 to 20, no problem. But we were
You're out to the gigahertz. Yeah. Then it just like gets weird.
even 200-300 kilohertz things can start to get weird. So so I started looking for something I could do that would get rid of the complexity of all the power supplies and all the rest of that and all the wires and everything, but still have a much bigger sound stage than if all I can do is mess around with capacitance, inductance, and resistance. In other words, geometry and materials.
Yep.
And that's when I came up with UEF.
Okay. What does that stand for?
Unified Energy Field.
Okay. How'd you
And
come up with that? Like, what is it?
well, at the same time, I was also trying to figure, gosh, we've had some, when I went sailing after the company was 10 years old and I was, or 12 years old, I was about 40 years, I was 40 years old. And I had just lost my biggest account, and Synergistic Research, I didn't know if it was going to stay in business or not. I didn't have any new ideas. I didn't know what to do. And I was losing a third of my business. So I just said, oh, to heck with it. I've always wanted to go sailing. I'm 40 years old now. I'm going to go sailing. So I sold my house and I bought a sailboat. And I went sailing. And I went sailing for 3 years. And the company was almost bankrupt. And so I had to come back. And when I came back, I suddenly had a lot of ideas. I'd been studying Nikola Tesla when I was out sailing in the South Pacific. And I've also observed some things. I went into a not Tibetan, I went into a Buddhist temple. They brought into some Tibetan prayer bowls, and I thought I noticed the acoustic shift. But I may have had something funny to smoke that day. So I came back a couple of days. I came back a couple of days later, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, nope, it definitely, it's affecting the acoustics somehow, these Tibetan prayer bowls. So I came back and experimented with bowls, and we forged bowls and we cast bowls, and forging is what sounded the best. But anyway, we made little resonators that you could put on the wall and different key pressure points around a room. And it significantly improved acoustics, but you still had something that gave off a funky kind of Buddhist vibe with all these bowls around your room and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really wasn't I was wondering, could I make something that's almost invisible? And my HFTs, the high frequency transducers?
Are those little teeny things? The
Yeah,
little
they're
like
like,
cymbal things.
correct. And
Yeah.
they've
Yeah.
got a little exponential horn
Yeah.
in them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So I started to think, how can I shrink the form factor of these little acoustic bowls, which was called the acoustic art system. And that's when I started taking a lot of shit from Ethan Weiner and all those guys.
I
Somebody
don't
that's
even know.
got,
I don't even know who those guys are.
or Ethan, was it Weiner? Anyway, and then there's a guy with an online AV thing, and
Oh yeah, I know who that is. I won't say his name.
neither will I, but and I just started getting a ration of shit, and that would have been around 2007. So
That's when
shortly
you
after.
develop for your HFTs,
No, that's when I developed the acoustic art system,
the bowls. Okay.
the bowls. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, and they just
No, but those things work. I mean, they've
yeah,
been
they
done.
work.
There's
They
other
work, and
company that did them
they've been
too.
used since antiquity. I
Yeah, I'm
mean,
with you. I'm with you.
the Greeks and the Romans
Yes.
used tuned vases in their cathedrals and
Yes, exactly.
amphitheaters, you know. But these guys are so myopic, and it's, whatever that makes sense to them that they've learned. And anything outside of that, unless it can be proven with the same rudimentary instruments they used to develop, to measure the effects of Owens Corning's fiberglass to attenuate frequencies in a room. They just don't think about it. So
Sure.
anyway, I caught a lot of shit for that, but and they were a lot smaller than real traps and things like that.
Yep.
But you still walk in, you see him, and your woman's gonna be like, "What the hell is that?" Right? So I'm
Yep.
like, "How can I make this smaller?" So I came up with a resonator that could go inside the tiny little acoustic horns that we make, the HFTs. Um, and it also interacts with electromagnetic waveforms. And so when you look at active shielding, and that's why it's called uniform energy field, because you're using the same basic technology to treat your AC, your ground, your acoustics, and your cables, right? So anyway, people think of electricity as water flowing through a pipe,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
except it's electrons through a
Yeah.
cable.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
But that's not at all. That's
Not
not
the
at
case.
all what it is.
No.
It's an electromagnetic waveform that rides above the conductor, and it's a
Yeah.
field around the cable, right?
Yeah.
That's why raising a cable off the ground makes a difference that you can hear,
Sure.
especially when everything else in your system is dialed in, so that it
Hmm.
doesn't have this massive bar to get above before you can hear the difference. And by massive bar, I mean you have so many compromises and things done that screw up the sound that changing one little thing can't go above the noise floor that you've created with all the other mistakes. But anywho, so that enabled us to stop making active shielded interconnects and speaker cables, UEF tech, because we were able to get the massive three-dimensional sound stage that we got with, a very complicated DC biasing scheme, and but with a lower noise floor. And so we initially applied the technology to the cables that had evolved for almost 20 years with active shielding, and they sounded great, but it immediately opened and that would have been the Element series. Was it the Element series? Or no, I think it was Atmosphere. I don't remember anymore. It was no, it was Atmosphere, the first Atmosphere cables. And so we were able to evolve those, and then we came out with Atmosphere X, and they were voiced in a way that was much more compatible with UEF tech, which is what had taken the place of a DC bias with current on the shield of a cable. And it was being used inside of HFTs, and we have different types of HFTs, and there's different kinds of UEF compounds we can make, and they have different effects on the sound. So, gosh, when the heck was that? 2008, 18. Like 15 years ago, we got rid of active shielding. Huh. Anyway, I've been doing this for 32 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No
So,
doubt, brother. And
yeah.
you came up too with at one point a power conditioner, and I think that thing was like a
Well,
break.
that all of that stuff came after I went sailing. So yes, I
Yeah.
did, and I applied for a patent on that in 2007 or 2008, and we came out with we did it. My very first, what the heck was it? Rocky Mountain Audio Fest was with the and I had just gotten done sailing, so it was probably 2007, and it was made out of plywood, and I put it under a blanket because I was ashamed. I didn't want to see it. It wasn't, I was just seeing what people thought of it and turning it on and off with all the components plugged into it. But it was very much a proof of concept prototype. And that was the first power cell line conditioner. And I think it's the first line conditioner in the world that really doesn't limit current. I mean, you can plug 1,000-watt monoblocks into it. The only limit to current is what you have at the wall, right? It's
Yep.
not the line conditioner. It's not. And that's a variation of active shielding, in that I figured out a way to apply an active DC bias to calm the state of the electricity coming from the wall. In other words, people think of electricity as being something that can be contaminated or made dirty and then it can be cleaned, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you get a waveform dirty? You don't. What you can do is,
Well,
because that wave,
it's a carrier wave at that point, right? And it carries noise on it,
well, exactly, it can pick up noise.
right?
Or it
Induced
can
noise.
become agitated. You know, there can be a hashy quality to it, and that's why you hear high frequency hiss and noise, which is actually very high frequency distortion that's above the limit of human hearing, but through harmonics it steps down and affects everything we do
Yeah, of
here.
course. Yeah.
But anyway, the power cell line conditioner just sets up a field that the electricity from your wall passes through, and it filters out a lot of high frequency noise, especially high frequency noise that occurs within the circuit. And by circuit, I mean your preamp, your amp, everything is plugged into the power cell, right?
Yep.
And they're all interconnected with wires.
Yep.
So that's forming a circuit.
Yeah, of course. I'm with
The
you.
individual circuits create the system circuit.
Yep.
And there can be a lot of high frequency noise that it gets created between the components that make up that circuit.
Yep.
And so if you measure a power cell in the context of an entire system, you're like, and you measure really high frequencies, you measure that, wow, it's really getting knocked out. But there's no limit to current. In fact, the electromagnetic cells themselves store energy like a supercapacitor does, like they use in Formula One, to power their electric motors after you've been braking into a turn and you get that boost right off the apex. Anyway, it acts like a supercapacitor, and it releases a little more current at the leading edge on demand than you would just get out of the wall. So typically the system and the amplifiers sound more dynamic when they're plugged into a power cell, and that's why.
Gotcha.
And then we've been making the power cell for a long time. It's one of our most popular and successful products.
Yeah.
And at some point, I got the idea to, we're using a variation of what we've been doing with active shielding for 20 years, but applied to an electromagnetic cell.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, could we also apply UEF to that? So we did. And then later
Oh,
power cells had that as, and then we realized you have all these extraneous waveforms that, RF and things like that, that can attach themselves to the energy field. That's the electricity coming out of the wall, the signal being amplified between components, and running along interconnects and speaker cables. And if there's any kind of noise that's still in that electricity, right? And it's affecting the system negatively, it's probably going to be high frequency RF. It almost always is. So I thought, what if we can do a runaround on high frequency RF and replace it with harmonics of the Earth Schumann resonance, which are extremely low frequencies.
7.83, baby.
And we will do it over multiple channels, and then there's thousands of delta phase points between the channels.
Okay.
And we can change the waveforms, the frequencies, the amplitudes between different frequencies. And by mixing and matching all of that, we can create any kind of gestalt that you want.
I see.
And like if you get one of my line conditioners, a power cell or a Galileo active ground block, or even the new ground block SX, they have adjustments. And when you're making that adjustment, you're essentially changing the low frequency RF dither or bias that you're applying. So most designers would think, well, I'll just filter everything out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how do you do that without closing in the sound?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
it's a form of compression. It's much better to just get rid of the bad and replace it with the good. And it's amazing how organic your system sounds when it's biased to their Schumann resonance, which is it's so important that they've got it up in the space station, because humans
right.
need it to function properly.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. If they remove it, they get sick.
Well, right. Well, like,
Yeah.
do you ever spend too much time on your phone ever?
I've done that before.
And you know how it kind of makes you
Yeah,
feel sick in a
totally.
way?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Well, part of it is that high frequencies. It's the
Uh,
high frequencies of the phone itself. That's why it's like better when you sleep at night to physically remove the iPhone or Android device from the bedroom and put it someplace far away.
yeah, right. Even
Yeah.
with even with the airplane mode on. I put my airplane mode on, but that's not enough, huh?
There's no such thing as airplane mode. They can
Okay.
pinpoint your location in 2 seconds flat if they want to for any reason,
Sure.
as long as there's any kind of battery juice in the device at all. You'd have to put it in a Faraday cage
Faraday
or,
cage,
or,
yeah, or
or
shield bag.
pouch or something
Yeah,
bag.
yeah, yeah,
So they just don't turn off anymore. They're collecting data points and selling it all the time. I mean,
yeah,
that's probably Apple's biggest revenue stream
yeah,
is
wild.
selling our information. I mean, that's Zuckerberg's biggest revenue stream.
Sure,
So yeah,
sure,
no, the,
cool.
the phones don't turn off is the point.
I got you.
They
Okay.
turn
So,
up, but they don't turn off.
yep. Okay. So, how did the fuses come along? Those are pretty popular, aren't they? Is that your best seller? What's your best
No,
selling product?
in terms of dollar amount, SRX cables.
Oh, okay. And what about in terms of volume?
Well, we sell over 15,000 fuses a year. So,
Wow.
and
That's a
they're
lot,
between
brother.
$300 and $600 a pop.
Yeah,
Yeah, we,
that's
we sell
killer.
a ton of fuses. And while, $300 or $600 is a lot of money for a fuse,
Uh-huh.
in the context of a high-end system, $300 to $600 for
Yeah, it's
making,
nothing.
adding something to the system that dramatically improves performance,
Yeah.
or if it doesn't, send it back to your dealer and get all your money back. That almost never happens. That's nothing. That's a very small price to pay to make your 10, 50, $100,000 plus system sound a lot better.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Now here's somebody that says, Scott Clark said, Mike, do you think synergistic research audio fuses actually work? They do. I've heard them work. And then it's just you ask yourself, do I like the how it changed the sound, or do I not like how it changed the sound? But they absolutely changed the sound. There's no question. Um, and so it seems that you
Well,
have
and they're
developed
sold with the money back guarantee. The thing that blows
exactly.
me away is a lot of guys that'll spend hours and hours and hours arguing about something
Yes.
for a stereo system
Yes, exactly.
on some forum somewhere, right?
Yeah. When there's a guarantee.
And they could try it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, if they don't have $300 to
Yeah.
exchange to the dealer to try the pink fuse, right? And if they
Yeah.
don't like it, they bring the pink fuse back and the dealer gives you your $300 back.
Yeah.
What are they complaining about? They can't afford it at that point.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I
We
mean,
had,
and I'm sure guys do bitch about the cost of a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, and I'm sure they drive very fine cars, but what's the point?
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't get
Exactly.
it. I just don't get it. So we try to make all of our products easily available to anyone with a sincere interest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you beat that? It's a money back guarantee. Try it if you want to. And I would invite anybody to try Ted's products because I know they work. I had people, and I've got my clients, I've got some clients that, man, and it's your power conditioner thing that people are like, dude, like more than one of my clients use that and they absolutely love it, swear by it. They would never take it out. It's like, they're serious about it, so I know
Well,
it's something else.
we sell a ton of power conditioners. We have a new power conditioner. We just fundamentally re-engineered the electromagnetic cell and the power cell for the first time since it was invented in 2008. There have been some incremental improvements, but no fundamental re-engineering, right?
Yep.
And we did that for a power conditioner coming out called the SRX, Power Cell SRX. And it's going to retail for around $65,000.
Damn, brother.
Well, it weighs like 80 pounds and
Bravo.
it's freaking
Bravo.
huge.
Yeah.
And it takes forever to make it. And we were in development on it for a year.
Yeah.
And it's so expensive to build that all of the technology that was developed for the SRX power, and Scott Walker Audio on the initial, before they've even been launched, he placed an order for 5 units.
He knows his client base. Yeah, he knows his client
Well,
base.
they'll be gone and he'll buy 5 more by Christmas, is my guess. But anyway, but that technology immediately went into the new PowerCell 8 SX, which retails for around $4,000. And frankly sounds better than most of my competitors' most expensive power conditioners. And it does not limit current on demand, but it has all of the technology from the huge 80-pound SRX power conditioner, just expressed in its most elemental form.
I got you.
But the electromagnetic cell has all of the new upgrades. The low frequency ULF biasing frequencies are the same. The UEF tech is the same. The power supply upgrades are the same. We just applied it to that unit. And so that's under $4,000. And then we have a power cell. What the heck's it called? PowerCell 14. Yeah, PowerCell 14. And that has all the technology, and it is very well expressed in that unit. And that is the best sounding line conditioner that I've heard anywhere in the world, except the SRX, that we're not going to build many of, and that very few guys could afford, even if we could build a lot of them. I mean, that's the equivalent of $1 million sports car.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Got you. Let's see if we've got some. Here's somebody says, Burdick says, Ted Denney should design speakers and amplifiers.
Why?
Ted Denney should design speakers and amplifiers.
Yeah. I don't want to design speakers. I don't want, I'm 60 years old now, and I don't want to.
Yeah. Why put more load on, man? You're killing it,
Well, but not just that. We're going to bump into physical limitations. I bought a new factory during COVID, right? Everybody was afraid to do anything, and I immediately grabbed some commercial real estate.
Yeah.
I'd always been renting before, so that was a huge thing. It's the biggest factory we've ever been in. But you can only produce so much product out of so many square feet, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
So, and you can't really find employees now. So if I were to build speakers, we'd have to spend a ton of money. That's not our art. That's not our art.
Yeah.
Magico has been doing that forever.
Yeah.
Guys over at Wilson have been doing it forever. I don't know that I could come in with anything meaningful in my lifetime that would better their best efforts. So why go there?
I got you. Yeah, that makes
sense. And I created the power cord industry. In 1994, I had the first successful high-end power cord with the AC master coupler. We sold like 30,000 of those units, and that was in production through when I was sailing the South Pacific by myself in the early 90s, or the early Y2K. And so I had that power conditioner that was extremely popular. And then Shinyata came along with a power conditioner, and then they came out with power cords. And I had huge pressure from my dealers to, also build a power conditioner. But I had no ideas on how to make something rudimental, fundamentally different from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been into just cooking the same spaghetti sauce, but with a different garlic oregano ratio.
Right. Yeah.
Which is essentially what everyone else does, right?
Yeah. Me too products. Absolutely. Yeah.
I hate that. And I had no ideas. But when I got back from sailing, I had an idea that, led to the electromagnetic cell. So that's when we came out with a power conditioner. Otherwise, I wasn't going to do it because I didn't think I could come out with something that would be significantly different or better than the best that was already on the market at that time. And the same, if I had some idea that revolutionized the driver or the crossover or the cabinet, and we could scale it up and produce it, or maybe, contract it and have it built in another factory or something like that. Because my factory, we're just cranking right now. And
where is the factory?
Fountain Valley, California, Southern
Okay.
California. I mean, I live in Tennessee, but the factory's in California.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just we're running into the physical limitations of the factory, and can we run 3 shifts? Probably can't find guys to work 3 shifts anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to have a graveyard shift and a swing shift
What about all those Mexicans coming across the border, brother? Okay, don't answer that.
Isn't that gross misinformation? But
Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we got any other questions. Here's one, Ted. How did you get going with Scott Walker Hi-Fi? How did you meet him, or
well, I had gotten back. I had been back from sailing for a few years, and Scott approached me, and he was still an audiophile at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting, I'd sold my house, and I was getting ready to buy a loft in downtown Long Beach, and he was an audiophile. And he sold some of my stuff on AudioGone, my
Mm-hmm.
gear that was my gear that I was, a pair of 225 triode monoblocks. I wasn't going to use those anymore, VTLs, and
Mm-hmm.
that I had purchased from David Manley actually for my first CES in '93.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long I'd had those. But
Awesome.
and I was talking to him, and I'm like, dude, you should be an audio dealer. You love audio. You're very good with people. You've got a killer work ethic. You would do really well, because most dealers don't have a good work ethic, and they just sit in their stores and they wait for people to come in and pay full retail, and they glad hand them out the door. I said, that's not how high-end audio should be sold. You got to go to people's houses. You got to set stuff up. You got to make it work. You got to call people back, blah, 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 which he already knew, because he was a professional businessman. And so he did. And his business grew, and he's probably doing more volume than just about any high-end 2-channel specialty retailer in the country today. At that time, the big guy would have been Andrew Singer, Sound by Singer.
Right.
But I think honestly now today it's probably Scott Walker.
Yeah. Or what about Kevin at Upscale, or like GTT
I
Audio, Bill
don't.
Parrish?
No. Kevin's good, and Kevin's got GTT is good too, and those are all really hardworking guys, right? Especially GT. Well, no, Kevin is too, but Kevin has a different kind of business, right? He
Mm,
imports products, and he's got some dealers, and he sells
yes.
direct,
Yep.
right? Scott doesn't import anything that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. He's definitely killing it. There's no question.
and he's in the higher end.
Yes.
I don't think Kevin sells a lot of it. I think Kevin probably makes more money than any other retailer in the country,
Right. Right. Yep.
which means he's doing more business. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he's doing the extreme high end.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, probably customers for whom this horrible inflation is a big problem,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have money for hi-fi right now.
Right.
But, the wealth transfer that's taking place because of all the money printing, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
people can't afford to do anything, and then they've got to sell stuff because they need cash.
Yeah.
And now that's causing downward pressure in asset markets. I don't want to get into a long conversation, but my customers they will be negatively impacted by all this stuff long term, but right now probably not.
Sure.
But if you're trying to if you're trying to sell value widgets right now, you're having a tough time, especially anything made in the US, or most of those customers are buying Chinese made products
Yeah.
for a
Yep.
lot of reasons.
Okay, so we got another question here. Theodore,
Yeah.
always curious about the precision of Synergistic Research connectors. How are they made? Does that mean anything to you? Like
Well, they're made to our specification,
okay.
and they're silver on the contact. And then there's a proprietary alloy underneath the silver. And the silver is several microns thick. And then on the contact points, it's pure the the signal pin is hollow in the middle to reduce hysteresis. A lot of times the connectors that look the most impressive, that look like jewelry, like certain European binding posts.
Okino or whatever.
I'm not mentioning names, but there are some things out there that are lots of metal, and they look very beautiful, and they're beautifully made, and there's no denying any of that. But I don't find it sounds best to have a lot of metal.
Eddy currents. Yeah.
Hysteresis occurs. It's just this. And when you think about how energy is flowing along, and then you're on these nice, beautiful little conductors, right?
Yeah.
And an air dielectric, and then you go slamming into this huge bus bar of metal.
Yeah.
Or connector. It's like a massive speed bump in the road.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And so it's designed around that idea, and that's why our center pins are hollow.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
On XLR and RCA, they're hollow and that's
cool.
the reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I've got another question here from Eric. He says, what's the difference the master fuse brings compared to pink fuse to the sound signature of a DAC?
Okay, first of all, I don't recommend people use more than 1 or 2 master fuses.
Okay, in one system.
In one system. Some guys find great applications for more, but especially with the new pink fuse, it sounds much closer to the master fuse than the purple fuse did. So the master fuse, like if you put it in, it works really well in some amplifiers, and it works great in most DACs or servers or front end components, right? And it has a tremendous amount of information. It's very low noise floor, so you hear more resolution, more sound staging, and all the rest of that. But if you got too many master fuses, it could be too much of a good thing. So you want to also have something that presents a sense of liquidity, texture, and body. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you can load up on all pink fuses, and you're going to have lots of information, lots of detail, and harmonically, it's right down the middle and it works with just about everything. But then if you toss in 1 or 2 master fuses, it's like pulling an additional veil off the system. But you don't need a ton of master fuses.
Okay, well, I mean, hence the name. There should be one, the master fuse.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another question from somebody. Says, power conditioners tend to negatively impact high frequency. How does your product combat that issue?
What does he mean negatively impact high frequencies? Like roll them off?
I don't know. Let's ask Daniel. Why don't you expand on that, and we'll come back to that question. Give us context, Daniel. Okay. Here, Dan asks, am I a synergistic research dealer? I am not. I'm having Ted on as a guest. So I've got no vested interest in bringing Ted on here. It's not making me any money. He didn't pay me to feature him. I simply think his products are very unique, and I think your story is unique too. If I'm correct in understanding, you built this from the ground up. It's kind of like a rags to riches type thing. You didn't come into this as a trust fund.
No. I moved out of my parents' house at 17. Didn't get along with my old man. Moved out. Was homeless for a while.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been on the same path.
Left. Dropped out of high school. Moved out of mom and dad's house, and
it's like almost the same story, man.
I had a union job for a while, which I did not like.
Okay.
I was working on a printing press. I was a jogger. All the paper comes off, and you've got to it would cut up your arms, and you'd have to rack it up and then shift them around so the spine is on half and half so that they stack flat, and then move them over, and then they're coming off. So I did that, and I hated it. Right? I think it paid like $15 an hour or something in the 80s because it was a union job.
That's pretty good, though.
It was okay, right?
$15 an hour in the 80s was solid, man.
But then I started my first little company called Starving College Student Window Washing Service.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there you go.
And that paid way better. and then I was putting myself through college, and I met a guy at a bar who was making like $1,000 a week selling cable TV subscriptions door to door.
Nice. Cold calling, baby.
And I thought I can do that. And you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I start listening to Zig Ziglar and Tommy Hopkins,
Oh,
and you'd
yeah.
have to pay like $300. And there were these cassette tape things, and they were in these molded plastic things.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you'd listen to the cassette tapes. So that'd be like $1,000. And I would spend that money when I was either couch surfing or renting a crappy little room in an apartment with a bunch of guys, right?
Yep.
And I'm dropping that kind of cash on that. So I'm constantly listening to Zig Ziglar, Tommy Hopkins, and I'm selling cable TV subscriptions door to door. And I'm going to Cal State. I'm going to California State University, Long Beach,
Uh-huh.
CSULB. Then I met another guy who was absolutely killing it, and he had a sales job selling cars. So I thought I could go do that in the summer, right? Because I didn't borrow any money. I got no help from mom and dad, and I'm
Yeah.
putting myself through college. And back then they didn't just they didn't hand out tons of money and put you in debt. You either could make it through school or you couldn't, right? And you didn't have the high percentage of people going to college then that they do now. So I went there and I did the sales with Moon Nissan and the Cerritos Auto Square in the summer, and I was making a ton of money doing that. And doing the cable TV stuff during the school year. And yeah, that's how I put myself through school.
Yeah.
So,
Cool, man.
and then I got a corporate sales job, which is, selling printing. Remember how I was a
Yep. Yep.
printer?
Yep. Okay. Got you. That was the thing. Yeah. Your corporate job.
Yeah, and you could make six figures doing that then, right?
Sure.
Because like you had annual reports, and the corporations would spend a fortune. So I got an annual report client, and I got a contract with Johnson and Johnson,
Yep.
and I was pretty good at it, but I just hated it, right? And so I left that job making six figures at 28 to start Synergistic Research. And I made less than 10 grand a year for the first 3 years. I slept on a futon in my first tiny factory. I would go to bed hungry at night sometimes because I had no money for food. I went from being, and I was totally buff. I was always working out at Gold's Gym, wearing suits, got girls everywhere I went. It was awesome. And I went from that to making less than 10 grand a year, sleeping on a futon in my factory. I had to sell my first BMW M3. It was the first generation M3. And I had to sell it
Reality
because
check.
I
Yeah.
had no money for fucking food, and I was
Yeah.
hungry and I needed to eat.
Yeah.
And you never knew when the next order was coming on. And I'm working 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day.
Did you push your shit on AudioGone when you first started? How did
There
you
was
make it
no
feel?
audio gone.
There was no AudioGone.
No,
That's
no,
yeah.
no, no. I mean, gosh,
You go to dealers. Would you visit dealers and tell them about your stuff? Come in with a bag of goods or
no,
what?
dude, I did direct mailers. I bought a CD-ROM of all the high end of all the audio dealers in the United States. And I
Wow.
would put together these mailers, and I would do like junk mail to dealers.
Wow. Far
And
out.
then the only way you could back then, Stereophile and TAS had every audio manufacturer by the balls. They could make or break you with their reviews. They're
Sure.
still important, but they don't have that level of they don't have the hegemony they once had, right? Because
Right.
there's
Yeah.
there's a thousand points of light all competing now. So
Sure.
same thing on my end too. I've got way more competitors now than I did in the 90s.
Sure.
Um, but no, I ran a full page ad in Stereophile, which cost me like $1,200 in 1992, which was a huge amount of money.
Damn. Yeah.
And that was a black and white ad.
Yep. What do you remember what it was? Did it say anything funny? Was it a funny
Hey,
ad?
so I just went to this MV Augusta, meetup where we just, I mean, Isle of Man level guys and shit, and we're tearing ass, and a lot of them are audiophiles. And so one of them, if you want, I'll go get it right now and show it to you.
Yeah. 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 Do it.
All right, I'll be right back. 2
Okay,
seconds.
man. Okay. So I'm going to go back in. Someone asked, I think Steve asked if Playback Designs DAX, thanks, brother. If Playback Designs DAX take a long time to break in. 500 hours, if you consider that a long time. Oh, well, look what Charles did. He made chocolate chip cookies. I'm on a cookie binge. Gluten-free. Pretty good. It was Bob's, whatever that Bob's Red Mill shit is in a bag. Not bad for a bad cookie. $500 for playback design. I'm sorry I'm being rude. I'm eating. Playback design, $500. Okay.
You see that?
Yeah, cable technology evolves.
Right. And you've got a record, you've got a 78, a 33, an old gramophone, a piece of sheet music there, right?
Yep.
A CD, and then my cable. That would be the Mark One.
There you go.
And here's what the ad said. It's an established fact that every component in your signal path imparts its own unique signature on the music you hear. And research in the field of listening tests, live unamplified versus pre-recorded music, confirms that one no cable design sounds musical in every system. This is 1992.
Yeah. That's
Back
great.
then, they just sold the same design with a hierarchy of different materials. And once it was made out of Teflon and silver, it was worth 100 times its weight in gold.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Anyway, for this reason, Synergistic Research has spent the past 3 years perfecting the relationship between interconnect speaker cables and the vastly different music systems in which they are employed. Engineered to a higher evolution. Our initial offering interconnects Mark 1 through Mark 4 and speaker cables Mark 1S and Mark 2S are engineered to the high blah, blah, blah. Try them all. We design our cables by ear, and we feel this is the only way to buy cables for a high-end system. You should decide to try, if you should decide to try a pair, we will ship you a complete set so you can evaluate each cable and achieve the match most suited to your system. All cables come with a 15-day no-risk audition period, straight from the source. We sell our cables factory direct. And while they are not expensive, they are substantially more cost effective than if they were to sell them through high-end audio retailers. Actually, that's not true. Once you get a big enough dealer base, the increase in volume that it creates enables you to do better than if you sell direct. I mean, if you get enough volume.
Right. Sure. Sure.
But that's what I was doing in 1992. I was 28 years old.
Good for you, man.
And these concepts are still hard for some guys to accept.
Right.
Which I mean,
Makes sense.
Do they listen to their stereos?
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. It's like you would think that everyone would understand power chords make a massive difference to the sound of a stereo. Because all you have to do is plug a halfway decent, like one of my original AC master couplers from 1994, into an amplifier. And if all you'd ever heard are stock power chords, you'd be like, I can't believe this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It doesn't take much. Yeah. To hear a difference. Yeah.
So they're either not listening or they can't listen beyond their confirmation bias.
Right. Yeah.
It's a negative expectation bias. And that's why they always assume everything is down to expectation bias. It's essentially a projection.
Mm-hmm.
They're practically NPCs, non-player characters. You know, you're playing Skyrim and you go into the little store and that guy, you know, any time of day he's there and he'll rattle off the same script. That's kind of what they sound like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
It's just like, because they're clearly not listening to hi-fi. I mean,
right. Yeah.
Or their systems are just so atrocious.
Yes.
You know, it's like we developed this product and it will take a second off your lap time in your Ferrari 296. So he puts it in his hoopty and says it didn't do anything. It's like, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Exactly. I love that. I love that. That's a great metaphor, man. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, how fast is an old Sentra going to go?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Regardless what you put on. Here's another question.
Yeah.
Does Ted have an audio system that uses his own SR fuses, his own cables, and your power conditioners?
Of course, every one of my systems.
That's what I would imagine. It's kind of a
Well,
What do you use?
if
Let's ask you. How about I ask you what is your system right now in the home that you're at right now?
I have a pair of avant-garde Zeros.
Oh, nice, brother. Bravo.
So
I
that's like
this.
in the listening room. Or not in the living room.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Oh, dude. God, I'm coming to hang out, bro.
Yeah,
I like
you
your
are.
house. Your
We're
house
gonna
is
go ride
nice.
motorcycles. So
Yeah.
and that's a lifestyle system. The room sucks.
Uh-huh. Sure.
But we still really enjoy listening to music here. And
Yeah.
it's a big open floor plan house, so it kind of fills the whole house with music.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of your house, dude. It's beautiful and modern. It's a gorgeous house, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, and then I've got a reference system and stuff's changing in there all the time. Right now I got some Magic Hose and Macintosh, and I've got some other stuff coming in. I'm going to start playing around with some old 1957 Altec Lansing Voice of the Theater horns.
Yeah.
And
Why do you
single
like
digit.
Macintosh?
Well, it's tonally, it's dead neutral. In
Okay.
other words, and it splits the difference perfectly between tubes and solid state.
Interesting.
So you get their most expensive, which from a high end perspective is not expensive at all, like 15 grand. They're two chassis valve preamp,
Mm-hmm.
and it's perfectly impedance matched. Their best sounding speaker or amps are the 600s or 601s or whatever the hell they're called now, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's their 600-watt monoblocks.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming you have speakers that can be, driven to their, that the power it can deliver is adequate to the speaker's demand.
Mm-hmm.
Like for my M3s, it
Mm-hmm.
drives them to the moon. $90,000 speakers drives them to the moon, right?
Yep.
But they've got a new speaker, an S5 Mark whatever 3 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not quite enough juice for that particular speaker. So you'd have to rethink the Mac thing, because I'm not crazy about their bigger amps. The 600 sounds better than the 1200-watt amp.
I got you. Yeah, yeah.
But
That
anyway,
happens.
so it's dead neutral. All of my products have some way to voice it, either the way you position footers or the tuning modules you plug into the cable, and it just interacts with that waveform. It's not putting anything in the signal path per se. But by designing on Mac gear, we're going to work with solution, and we're going to work with audio research, and
Oh, okay.
we're going to
The
work
brands that are in the dealers, it makes
with
sense.
CH Precision, and it's probably the single most popular high-end electronic brand in the United States for actual 2-channel audiophiles.
Yes, for sure. It's the most popular, most
Yeah.
widely recognized as well.
Yeah, and like when we go to a trade show and we roll with Mac, all the guys that are really snobby, about stuff, and that's Mac, and they think of it as like a Chevy LSV8 kind of thing, which it kind of is. But they're like, it's not going to sound good. They walk in, they're like, I can't believe what this sounds like. I've never heard Macintosh sound like that. And I'm like, well, is it the Macintosh?
Right? Yeah.
So
There you go. I see. That makes sense. Yeah. There you go.
it's dead neutral, and I don't want to skew one way or another. So if I were to use ultra broad bandwidth electronics like Solution, which are some of my favorites,
Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't work as well with the other end of the spectrum.
I understand. It makes sense. Yeah. I see where you're going. Yep.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
it's just, it splits the difference between everything. Once you apply my products to it, I mean, with my reference system with Macintosh and all my synergistic technology and $90,000 Magic House, would it sound even better if instead of spending 30 grand on the amplification, I spent 300 grand? Yeah, a little bit. But the Macintosh will sound better than the Solution if the Solution doesn't have any synergistic.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
And I don't. Yeah, so that's my answer. But
Yeah.
Solution, V2s, there's a lot of amazing, really high-end brands out there, and of course they're better than Macintosh. But
I understand.
they're
It
not
makes perfect sense.
significantly better than Macintosh. So
Yeah,
unless you're willing to
they're
spend,
definitely not more popular.
unless you're willing to spend all that money on the electronics and then not, I spent all this money on electronics, so I don't need X, Y, and Z. Well, actually you do, and you're going to get a bigger ROI in X, Y, and Z. Like
Yeah.
ground conditioning, line conditioning, a full loom of cables instead of a half-ass mix of whatever you picked up on Audio Gone.
Right. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
never in, or you know what, spiders swallow the spider to kill the fly. Say, oh, it's a little bright. I think I'll put this muddy dark cable on here,
I
and then,
talked
oh
about
no,
that.
no, that's too much. Okay, I'm gonna put this Viking cable in here that peels paint off of walls.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And back and forth. And then you pull one thing out, like you change your DAC and you're screwed because you just had the recipe dialed for that DAC or that amp. And then
Yeah,
transparent right down the middle is the way to go.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we make our cables so that you can slightly change their sound by clicking something in, make it a little warmer and more liquid, or a little sharper with more detail. And you voice each cable one by one, and then you get a bespoke match to your system. But again, because we use Mac, we work with everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Mac really does split the difference between everything, and I feel it's a good value. I'm sure, if a $15,000 preamp and $15,000 monoblocks is a lot, I get it, but
I
in the
don't think so.
grand scheme of high end, it's not a lot.
It's
It
not.
really is the Corvette of electronics.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, got another
Yeah.
question that says, hello, sorry if it's been asked before. What would a smart cascade of choices in choosing SR products up
It
to
depends
5K?
where you want. It depends where you want to start.
He says total system value of 25K with the weight towards digital.
Fuses would be huge bang for the buck.
Okay, so pink fuses
Yeah.
with one master fuse?
No, just get pinks, and then once you get a
With the
full loom
pinks,
of those,
okay.
if you want to, you could try a master fuse, but you'd be super happy with the pinks. And just listen to the directionality. Huge pain in the ass, but you have to listen to them both ways
Got you.
on a component by component basis.
Okay.
And then a loom of interconnect speaker cables, power cords that are engineered to work together. And one of my new PowerCell 8 SX line conditioners, which has all of the technology from the $65,000 line conditioner.
Oh, yeah,
and a
for
4,000 for 4K, and
Yep.
the build quality is unbelievable. It's guys do not wear watches strictly to tell time, correct?
Yeah, we know that.
Right. So this is very much Patek Philippe build quality in a $4,000 line conditioner. So not only does it dramatically improve sound quality, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And if it doesn't, you send it back to the dealer. But it's also going to be one of the coolest looking components that you own. I'm so proud of it. It's got a huge view window in the front, so you
Oh,
can
yeah.
see the circuit.
Yeah, they are cool, man. They're definitely cool. Yeah. For
So
sure.
that's
Now,
what I would recommend. Fuses are just a huge bang for the buck. Again,
okay.
$300 is a shit ton of money for a fuse, but it's not a lot of money to significantly improve the performance of an expensive stereo.
Sure. Okay. And how often
Yeah.
do those things blow?
I don't know. Fuses wear out though.
They wear out over time. They have a duty cycle, duty life.
They have a duty cycle. And if you look at a fuse that's been turned on and off for 2 or 3 years, it looks like this crusty black hair.
Ah.
Okay. And brand new, it's a flat silver metal ribbon.
I got you. Yeah.
So
right. Okay.
they deteriorate over time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Just like tires deteriorate, clutch pads deteriorate, brake pads deteriorate.
Yeah.
Fuses deteriorate.
Okay, that's good to know.
But
Cool.
let's say you buy one of our fuses, you plop it in, and your component blows it right away.
Mm-hmm.
We'll replace it. And, a lot of component manufacturers, they're estimating what the blow, or always follow the directions. I'll just say that you always follow your manufacturer's directions, but we take care of people.
If they blow it with their inrush.
I'm brand new, not a year down the road.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's brand new and then it just means it's too small.
Yeah, and then you can decide if you want to go up, incrementally, a very tiny
But they
amount,
get
or just.
one chance. I suppose if they don't go up, then they don't get a
Well, if
replacement on
they said, if they were to say a very small percentage to say, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that, we say, no problem. You got a money back guarantee. Thank you for trying. It's
Yeah.
just that the conversation just doesn't occur very often.
Yeah.
Typically, what happens is people buy or refuse they can for every component that'll accept it. And then after 2 years, we've accumulated enough knowledge in researching UEF and high frequency conditioning processes to make a better fuse. Although with the purple fuse, it stayed on the market almost 3 years because we couldn't come up with anything as good as the pink fuse until the almost 3 year mark.
Got you.
That was the first time ever.
Okay.
So, because anytime we're working on new cables, new electronics, whatever, one of the things we're doing is experimenting with how we run high frequency, high voltage current or electricity through circuits and cables to improve their sound, and how we interact with those fields around conductors with a UEF compound, all of which could be applied to a fuse.
Yeah.
So at some point, we have all the technology in place and we keep building the fuse for another 6 or 7 months until we come out with a new one. Because you can only, with fuses, you can only change them every 2 years, or people just go nuts. And we don't want to do that. And typically we have a 4 year cycle, 3 to 4 year cycle on products. Some
Okay.
products 10 years.
What's the duty cycle on fuses, do you think?
About 2 years.
About 2 years before they should be replaced, really?
Well, like you could have a pink fuse today and run it in your system, or you could have anybody's fuse. Let's say hi-fi tuning. You get a brand new hi-fi tuning fuse, you put it in your system, you find the directionality, listen to it both ways, and you enjoy it. And 2 years later, you get a brand new hi-fi tuning fuse and you put it in, and it's going to sound very different. Now, some of that will be due to break-in, but there's a break-in period where things mellow out, and like opening up a bottle of wine and letting it breathe for a little bit.
Yeah, I got you.
But if you leave a bottle of wine open and breathing in the decanter overnight, it's going to be reminiscent of vinegar sometime tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens with fuses too. But literally, you can break a fuse open that's been in a system for thousands of hours, and it does not look like it did when it was new. You can visually see a difference on the burn wire
I got you.
with the naked eye. So,
Okay. Here's Dan asks if Ted were to recommend one of his synergistic research products, cost no object, which product would you recommend?
power conditioner.
Okay, so that Big Daddy, the new one that just came
No,
out.
no, it wouldn't have to be the new one. It'd be whatever you could
It costs no
afford.
object.
Well, then it would be the PowerCell 14 or the PowerCell SRX.
Okay, so your top of the line power cell,
Or the 14, the one right below it.
which is the one right below it $4,000, or that the one right
No,
below
no,
it's like
no.
30 grand?
No. That one's coming in at around 15.
Oh, okay. So it goes from 65 to 15.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's nice.
Well, the one that's 65 comes with two SRX XL power cords, which I think they retail for 12 grand a pop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so you could either split your AC filtration into digital and analog, or you could plug your power amps into one bank and everything else into the other. You can experiment with, but it has two separate banks in one box.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we got some other. Okay, here's I can probably answer this one now that I've talked to you. I already know how to sell it. If I was to buy one synergistic research product to improve my system, where would I stay? Pink Fuse, Past Labs, Weiss, and Golden Ear speakers. Right? Is that what he starts off with? I mean, would you start him with something small?
Is it just one thing that he wants to do? I mean,
if he
if
says
you
if I
buy
was
a bunch of power cords, that's also huge.
He says
Or
if I
two
was to
power
buy
cords.
one synergistic research product to improve my system, where
Yeah,
would
a
I
pink
start? Where would I
fuse
start?
or a carbon fiber duplex cover, a quad cover.
So just a quad cover, a
Like
duplex
at the
cover.
wall, it's like a
Yeah, I know
carbon
what it is. A
fiber.
wall plate.
Yeah. But what
That
that
might,
does is, if you realize you've got all that energy, going around the cable
yep.
from going through your wall, and it's interacting with pipes and all kinds of other things in the wall. Anything that's ferrous is going to interact with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's picking up a lot of stuff, and then it slams into that carbon fiber square or rectangle,
Mm-hmm.
and that has a calming effect because of what we've done to the carbon fiber. The carbon fiber is conductive; it's carbon, and it's woven, so it's going to break up wave patterns.
I got you.
And then it has a UEF element.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So either of those two things, like if I were a salesman at a retail store and some guy comes in and I'm talking to him and he's not buying anything from me, but I want to send him home with something that's going to really blow his mind and maybe get him to come back and buy something else from me or come back with it and get his money back if he didn't want to keep it, it would be a fuse or a duplex cover.
Okay.
Unless the guy wanted to try a power cord or something like that.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got another question. Let's see. Ted, are there materials your company has a hard time attaining, maybe like rhodium or silver?
No, I watch the spot price on silver all the time. And when it drops, I place
I might
manly
too.
orders,
Yeah.
50, 60, 100 grand just for silver wire.
Yeah.
And we'll bring it in there and we'll start going through that. We'll almost like buying stocks on a dip.
Mm-hmm.
We'll buy silver on the dip.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Because we manufacture at this point, most of our geometries are handmade in my factory.
Yeah.
We're not having them built for us and then running them in conjunction with other geometries and stuff like we used to do.
Oh,
We build
sure.
just about everything in house now,
Yeah,
but
that's
we still
cool.
have to buy materials. So
Someone asked, what do you think of licensing your advanced innovations to other companies to give them a competitive edge?
that would be awesome. That way, then we could let China would find out within 90 days.
Yeah.
And then it would be everywhere, and we would have no competitive advantage and no ability to seek relief in court because you just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
What we are doing, though, is working with a car manufacturer that may be licensing all of our tech into his cars here pretty soon. In
Cool.
which case, I could retire on the moon.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, because the car is awesome. It's got everything in that one location. It's got cables. You can it's got acoustics. You could build my FEQ carbon into it, or everything we make could be rolled into the environment of a car's infotainment system.
I got
And
you.
I've done it in my cars, and it's even though it's the stock stereo that came from the factory, it sounds radically different and radically better. So that's my intention would be to license the technology to some guy like Elon and get a small amount of money on every unit sold.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, that'd be
And
nice.
then I would just keep doing Synergistic as a way to develop new technology
For sure.
that we could then sell to Elon.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, man. No doubt. That'd be
Yeah.
killer. Okay, someone asked, Ted, I understand if someone gets a synergistic research fuse and it's put in backwards, it can blow the fuse immediately. Is this true?
No.
No. Okay.
No. The backwards or forwards or whatever, they just subjectively sound different.
Yep.
And you
Okay.
pick the one that sounds most open and effortless. And then you go to the next fuse and you listen fuse by fuse and component by component. And you just pick one of two options. It's an either or binary choice. And you pick the one that sounds best. If you're not sure on one, I think this way, I think that way, no problem. Just leave it there. Go to the next component if you're, basically doing your whole system in a loom. And you find one and you're like, oh, I really like this, but maybe it's a little too bright. And you had one of two options on the other one, and one was a little warmer than the other. So you
Mm-hmm.
flip it around, you're creating a bespoke match of the fuses to the system, which is why we can't just say use a DVM, digital voltmeter, to determine directionality, because it's not always a question of that.
I got you.
And the
Okay.
fuse is not working if the fuse is working not just in the context of whatever component you're plugging it into, but it's also working in the context of all the other components that make up that circuit or that system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
So, and that's why the voltage DVM thing doesn't yield the most accurate results.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to listen. And a lot of guys, they want a really pat, easy answer as to why, but you have to put the effort in to get a world-class stereo. And that really is the difference between hi-fi and mid-fi, in my opinion. Mid-fi stuff measures great.
Oh yeah, right. It always does. Sure, because that's what they sell on.
Measures just fine, right? Measures good. Some measures really great, but that doesn't mean it sounds as good as the high-end stuff. It doesn't. Yeah, but
Right.
mid-fi is very good. I could make a high-end system at going to Best Buy if I plugged all my technology to to a receiver and some speakers and all of that.
Oh, sure.
I'm sure I could come up with something that would blow people away at a trade show.
That'd
Just
be
to
fun.
make the point.
Right, just to make the point.
Just make the point. Okay, what do you think it is? Do you really think it's that Pioneer receiver?
Yeah.
And those Polk speakers, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that really what you think? Okay.
Dude, that sounds like
Because
fun.
everything I make is snake oil. Okay. All right. Sure.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Here's a
We did
question.
that when we launched
you-
the HFTs. We used the plastic Bose Wave radio at
Oh,
Rocky
nice.
Mountains. Yeah.
There you go. That's a great idea. Okay, here's a question. Does Ted recommend burning in your Synergistic research cables and power cords using a cable cooker?
Not really, because we use a cable cooker at the factory. We burn everything in for a week on one.
Do you use a cable cooker? Don't you use Tesla coil on some things?
We use coils. We use other things now as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hit it with a current burn in over time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But listen, we could have a cable that we did all of our, hit on a coil, hit on something else, and ran current through it over a period of time, and then put it in the reference system and let it play on repeat every day for 6 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the cables are quote unquote burned in, and we pack them up in a box and we ship them to Expona, right?
Mm-hmm.
When
They're
we put
toasted
them
by the
first
time
put
they
them,
get there.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So they've got to open up again, right? And it comes back a lot faster than if we never did all the rigmarole that we go through.
Yeah.
And it arrives at a different point because of all the conditioning processes we go through than if we didn't, right? It's not the same as just letting it play for thousands of hours. But even when a cable has 6 months of nonstop play on it, you take it out of the system for any length of time and put it back in, it will have to reacclimate. It will have to settle in again. Something is happening, and I'm not quite sure technically what it is, but empirically it's undeniable. And it doesn't matter. I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars to, figure out how many angels can dance on the head of a pin.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds bad. And some guys, they have a real problem with that. And that's okay. But to me, high-end audio is all about subjectively what something sounds like. You can use measurements to determine whether or not the speaker is going to go with an amplifier, for example, right? Or if you're not using the same brand of amp and preamp, if you're going to have compatible input and output impedances between a preamp and power amp of different manufacturers. Measurements are very handy for things like that. But they don't tell you what something sounds like. And they can't tell you all of these nuanced things that, when you get a system and it just sounds amazing and it's clicking for you, there's no measurements for that. You have to listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's for sure.
And I've noticed from listening, like we get to a trade show and it really isn't getting good until Saturday. And it is the best when the show's a ghost town on Sunday.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
And those cables have thousands of hours on them ahead of the show.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So that's the answer.
Okay. Someone asked, does Ted use, do you cryo freeze any of your stuff?
Nope.
No. Okay. Yeah. What about the wobble box?
What's a wobble box?
The wobble box. Yeah. It's the
Uh,
your bass trap. Your
oh,
active.
the
Yeah.
black box.
Yeah.
It's one of the coolest things I've ever made.
Yeah.
And
It's really cool. Tell
we've
us about
re-engineered it for the first time in over 10 years.
it. Okay. Tell us about what it does. These guys have no idea.
It has 13 resonators inside, and it's essentially a spin-off of my acoustic art system that I developed when I got back from sailing around the world by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works is the standing wave in a room is similar to the frequency that a given tuning fork will vibrate at.
Okay.
So if you have a tuning fork, you activate, and you have another tuning fork and it's tuned properly, when you bring them together, it cancels it out. That's exactly how it works.
So active bass cancellation.
Well, it's passive, but yes.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And
Yeah,
it's
the
a
thing
lot
works.
more
I mean, I know.
powerful than Owen's Corning in a tube, I can tell you.
Yeah, and you know what? Dave Malkapor, then Owens Corning in a tube. What the hell's that?
Any traditional room treatment is essentially fiberglass.
Okay. Got you. Okay, yeah. Or rock wool or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. So Dave
Well, and
Malkapor.
all of those materials also sound different. Like silk sounds the best, but that would be very expensive
Sure.
as a dampening material. But anyway, spun silk, like huge
Yep.
cotton balls of silk. Yeah, they
Yeah.
sound the best. Yeah.
Hmm.
That I've heard.
Cool.
Admittedly, I have not paid a lot of attention to that. It's just not very interesting because the physical size of it is so massive. You're not going to want to put that in a nice room, and people don't.
Right. I got you.
And then there are companies that make really good products like that, and I buy those from them and then combine it with my products.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my listening room, it's 50-50. It's 50% UEF, it's 50% traditional.
Got you.
And you remove the traditional, it doesn't sound as good. You remove the UEF, it doesn't sound as good. You put them together, it sounds a lot better.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Okay, let's see if we have any. Yeah, I don't see.
Nobody's there?
Well, they are, but they're just kind of commenting back and forth and nothing. I bring you the questions that I think are worthwhile questions. Otherwise,
You getting a lot of snarky guys?
No, not really. Couple,
right.
yeah. Yeah. So, do you have anything new on the horizon that you're in development with?
Tons of stuff.
Oh, cool.
We got a new black box where we're using carbon fiber, and they're stackable, and can be used in conjunction with the thousands of the original black boxes that we've been building for over 10 years, unchanged. And we have a radical new active acoustic treatment system called, I'm not going to say what it is, but it's controlled on an iPad, and it's called the Sonic Mastering Lab. And you move sliders on the screen like you would in a control room in a recording studio.
Yep.
And you can hear the mid-range moving forward and back, and it's not in the signal path. And you can hear the soundstage shape changing, and you can hear more air or less air, depending how you set it, fatter bass, tighter bass, totally outside of the signal path.
And what is that called?
Well, I'm not going to say what
named
it
it
is.
yet.
I have named it. I'm just not going to say, but
okay.
Just to give you an idea, that's something I've been working on a long time.
Super interesting.
And you can create your own, use the tools on the iPad and then save them as a preset.
Sure.
And have your own presets that you've, maybe for electronic music or acoustic. I'll make my own presets.
Right.
We could give you the system for a while. You could create your presets, and we'd have the OCD hi-fi guy presets, different reviewer presets, musicians. Sure. A lot of musicians and recording guys are using Synergistic now. So, yeah.
And it works in the field.
It works. Yeah.
It's not in the signal path. It's not DSP. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's like active.
That throws the baby out with the bathwater.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
Although with bass,
That's
I
super
like the
interesting.
DSP on my avant-gardes. It's a lifestyle speaker,
Sure.
but it's probably not what I would want to do in a 6-figure, 7-figure home stereo.
Right. Yeah. 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 I'm with you.
Unless I just, had a very specific, anyway, probably not. So,
Personal
yeah.
question for Ted.
Yeah.
How many miles out in the South Pacific did you go on your boat?
Well, I sailed San Francisco to Hawaii.
Yeah. Wow.
And I had to have the boat outfitted within 30 days to qualify for, at the time, it was 21 years ago, what was called an offshore delivery, so I could get around California state sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
So I was training myself in navigation on the way to Hawaii.
Wow. Were
Because
you
I'd never,
alone?
yeah,
Oh, shit, you fucking nut, dude.
no, it's awesome. It was absolutely
That's
incredible.
crazy.
The only
Wow.
time it
That's
sucked is
fascinating. It fascinates
if
me.
you're coming into like an atoll or something,
Yeah. What's an atoll?
you like with coral
Okay.
and the water, and you've got channels of water, and then you
Yep.
can
Yep.
go aground on the coral and die or whatever. Sometimes you'd have to be up for 38 hours before you
Holy,
could anchor, and that was brutal. And I
no
fell
doubt.
asleep once and got tangled up in some coral, but I was lucky I got off it right away. um, but being out in the middle of the ocean, I had no concerns. I'd slept like a baby. I figured if it was my time to go, God was calling me, and I was okay with that.
Wow.
But yeah,
Epic.
yeah, it was
Epic.
epic, and it changed me forever.
Wow.
My thought process is very different to now than it was before I went sailing.
Interesting. And how, tell me the distinction.
Um, well, when you go to prison, the last thing you want is solitary confinement, supposedly. And being on a boat in the middle of the ocean, the middle of the Pacific, is, by definition, solitary confinement. And this is before satellite telephones and all of that. So I had a shortwave radio, which is a ham radio on there.
Yeah.
And I would download grib files, which would show me, I would write a square on the map, and it would show me the projected weather for that. And then I'd run it through a program. Anyway, I'm by myself on the boat, and I went through severe depression and all kinds of different things. And I was reading a lot of Nikola Tesla, and I don't know, when I left, I had no new ideas, and I'm known for being a guy that's always got ideas, right?
Yep.
That came largely after I got back from sailing.
Hmm.
And I
Wow.
have never, we have, for every product we bring to market, we've developed 2, 3, or 4 others that we just decided that it's a good product, but the market can only absorb so many products. Anytime we come out with a product, even though it may be a new product, unlike anything we've ever made before, oh, they're always changing everything all the time, we hear. It's like,
Of course. I see what you,
no,
yeah.
no, we have a
Yeah.
4-year cycle. So you can only come out with so many products because your
Sure.
dealers only have so much money to stock so much stuff. And
Sure.
consumers only, they can't, a lot of synergistic guys, they get my products, they love it. Their system sounds in a way they've never heard it sound before. It's kind of what they've always wanted in the back of their mind or didn't think was possible. And they start buying all our stuff. Well, the last thing they want to do is for it to just be so overwhelming that they're like, I can't do this.
Right. Yeah.
So if
Sure.
anything, I would like to eliminate some products going forward.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, look at the ones that sell, maybe ones that are moving slowly, and unless the slow movers have some strategic reason for being there, just get rid of them.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
yeah.
Let's see. Here's something else. Is it possible for some of your products to make things sound worse, make changes that are counterproductive to a particular system, i.e., does everything always result in an improvement?
Not necessarily. If you overspend on the cables, maybe going down to a lower tier could sound better.
Interesting. Okay.
Depending
Like,
how
like if,
well your system loads up on resolution, or is it going to, uh, it, transparency is a double-edged sword, right? Do you wear
yeah,
glasses?
I do.
Okay, when you look at yourself in the mirror
So
without glasses, you look like 15 years younger because your vision's blurred, right? A little
yeah,
bit.
right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you have these, electron these cables that are just capable of transmitting so much phase and frequency information, the noise floor is low, you may be hearing issues in the rest of your system. Going back a level with our products could not only
Reveal
save you some
reveal
money,
those
but
aspects.
sound better. And then you could even then maybe add a ground conditioner or something like that with the money you saved. And that would probably sound better.
I got you. Okay.
Also, my cables are voiceable, so we don't have a huge problem of lack of compatibility. I often wonder, like, when I used to design cables before I came up with a good way to make them voiceable to a system, I couldn't shoot for maximum resolution and transparency because it just wouldn't work in the vast majority of systems.
Sure.
So I had to settle on a balance that I thought would be musical and acceptable to the broadest possible audience.
Makes sense. Yeah. It's
But
a
now that
smart.
we can voice them, we can shoot for the moon. And
Yeah.
then you plug in your UEF modules and you have two, a yin and a yang, gold, silver, red, blue, whatever, depending on the family of cables. And they get voiced, and it's pretty dramatic once they're all voiced one by one, and you won't prefer the same option everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working on spreadsheets or writing down when we go and do these different systems at trade shows, what ended up sounding best.
Yeah, I got you.
And we can predict about 90% of the time what you're going to want to try in different places. And we're going to come out with this as a master guide soon.
Yeah.
And that, maybe at this juncture, you're going to try something else. You're going to compare these two options. But 90% of the time, if you use the gold filter here, here, and here, and the silver filter here, here, and here, you're really only going to have to do critical voicing between these additional components.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're still having, and then, we could even, I'm doing stream of consciousness now. We could even have it where you enter in which cables you have, what your voicing options are, and what, and try this. And then if you hear this, maybe this one that we told you to go silver on, flip it to gold. And I want to make it as fast and easy for people as I can, because just a lot of guys don't have patience to sit down and dial their system. And a lot of guys love it.
Right. Yeah, I'm
And
with
if
you.
the guys who don't love it, hopefully they've got a good dealer who goes out to their house and does it for them while they sit there. And, and it's kind of like, when you go to get glasses and you're sitting in there looking, is this better? Is that better? Is this better? Is that better?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Can
And
depend on moods. You end up with several.
well, the mood thing though, if you've got one of my power conditioners or ground conditioners, you can hit a button and a light color changes inside the box. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
corresponding shift in the sound.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so you can
That's pretty cool, man.
you can wire your cables and voice them, and then you'll never have to address that again. But you might want to go over and push the button on your line conditioner when you're listening to Pink Floyd versus something else when you're listening to analog Miles Davis.
Right. I got you.
Not the electronic Miles, but earlier
Yeah,
Miles,
yeah, I'm with you.
or Duke Ellington or an opera or something.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
It's a cool idea, man. The whole concept is great. Here's a couple guys that are asking about the boat. How big was your boat and which one was it?
It's a J boat. They were made in Rhode Island by Pearson Composites, and 42 feet in length, carbon fiber stick, rod rigging, stick being the mast.
Mm-hmm.
Anything bigger than that, and I wouldn't have been able to carry around the sail plan. And I was 40 then, right? And I was young, and I was jacked up and big, and just from doing all the stuff on the
Dude, we
boat.
need to see a picture, bro. You got a picture of you all jacked? Show me a picture.
Uh, how can I do this? Can I send it in the comments?
You could just show. Oh, you've got it in your phone there.
Yeah, I got some pictures from when I was sailing.
I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we do it. Like if you're using your phone right now, I don't know
Yeah.
how we do it unless you can pull it up on your computer or somewhere, or you have,
Let
you
me
know,
see if I can do it that way. No problem. Let me see here. Let's see if I have those pictures.
and then you can
Yeah.
just turn your phone and point it towards your
Yeah.
screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I'm gonna look through some of these. Already been done. Should lower the people Mikey brings on the show. Everybody's happy to see you. Yep.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Oh, here's an interesting one. Is it, and I'm gonna know there's like a hell no after this. Is there a company out there that Ted fears in competitors? Of course not.
No,
No
no.
way. He crushes.
We do. I mean, the
Yeah.
thing I love most is bumping into one of the three big line conditioners in the system,
Yeah.
listening, go, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, hey, you know what? We can maybe try first. Let's pop the AC man, and let's plug the power cell in,
Mm-hmm.
and they just can't believe it.
That's awesome. Wes says, I'm friends with Alan Johnstown from J Boats. We were neighbors for years.
Yeah, I have a J42. Sealed the
Yeah.
shit out of the thing, surfed it to 18 knots down waves with an ASIM kite flying and on autopilot in 40 knot winds and 20-foot seas. Great
Wow.
boat. I mean, that is a great boat. It goes like stinking light air and is safe in heavy air. And it's fast enough that you can avoid most storm fronts.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Was there any time on your trip where you thought you were going to die?
Yeah, a few times.
Big storm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the gnarliest sailing of all was, so like, okay, here we go. Here's a picture of me at
Okay.
anchor in, hold on. Can I flip the camera around with this app?
Yeah, is that your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, just flip your phone pointed at your screen.
Hey, there you go. Can you see that?
Yeah. Ah, look at you, buddy. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
I had a couple girls on there and we
Of
were
course
having
you did.
it was something. Here we go. Here's some chick. She was a DJ from Italy that I met in Honolulu. That's me.
Oh, yeah. Look at that, man.
She wasn't so hot, but here, hold on.
We know
Let
what
me
makes up for it.
she smoked cigarettes, right? And so
Yeah,
I just to be around her, I smoked and we broke up shortly after, not until I was addicted though.
yeah.
And it took me 7 years to quit that nasty habit.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh, the worst. There's nothing redeeming in cigarettes. It
No,
doesn't
yeah,
give you a fresh perspective,
no.
you know, and it fucks up your health 9 ways to Sunday pretty
Oh,
quick.
yeah, it does.
Okay, here I am at the point on the planet furthest from land in all directions. It's about 1,000 miles in all directions. You are
Wow.
officially out of the reach of air sea rescue here. This is
Wow.
halfway between Hawaii and California.
Wow, man.
And so that was in the morning, I think, or in the evening. And then this was the other time of day, right there.
Oh, wow. Epic, man.
Okay,
That's
so
so
that was when I was sailing the boat back from Hawaii to California. I sailed under the high, hard on the wind, 1,200 miles on one tack and 1,200 miles on two tacks to Catalina. I did it in two tacks under the high pressure zone. If I had got that wrong, I would have been stuck in the doldrums for a couple months.
ooh.
I had a water maker though, but I would have run out of diesel. It would have been a problem.
Yeah,
It
crazy.
would have sucked.
Crazy.
So let me see here. I'm trying to find. There are a few pictures where I'm all jacked up.
So
But
quick question while we're waiting for you to find the next pick. On
Mhm.
a piece of gear that takes two fuses, does it work if you just put one synergistic in there, or do you need to do both of them or nothing?
One will make a difference. Two will be a lot better.
Okay.
There's no such thing as changing something. Well, that's not true. Anything consequential that you change in the system, you're going to hear the difference. That makes sense. Yeah. Let's see, years. 2000.
He said, Wes says that must have been rough on your body, sailing like that.
Dude, I looked like I was on roids.
Did you? Yeah.
You just sitting on the boat is a core workout. So I was ripped.
Yep.
And you couldn't eat a whole heck of a lot because there wasn't a lot of food. So you just got ripped. When I was catching fish, I was always pulling a line. I'd catch a fish every 2-3 days.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And eat that. Usually mahi or a little tuna or something.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Here says,
I can't find it.
Please ask him if he did anything special when he crossed or was near the Mariana Trench.
I don't think I did. I don't remember being in them. I mean, I know I went through the Marianas Trench, but I don't. There was a tabletop where it went from really deep to not so deep.
Yeah.
I thought we'd see something there. And I think that's one of those places that those billionaires, that have the big yachts and haul the extreme surfers out and shit and have rave parties in the middle of the ocean.
Mm.
Kind of like a Diddy freak off probably now with what
Yeah. He ain't doing
I
that.
think that tabletop is one of those areas that gets the big waves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no. Where you would you get it changes when you cross the equator. It changes when you go into the Indian Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Really changes. So,
were you ever down like the tip of South Africa? Isn't it rough down there?
brutal.
Yeah.
New Zealand was cool.
Were you in Australia?
Yeah.
Tassie, right? Someone says you were down in Tassie.
What's Tassie? Maybe.
I don't know. Because it must be. What is that, Marty? He said something. Have you done kite sailing?
Nope.
30-foot waves off Tassie.
No, but I thought at the time, why couldn't you put a kite at the front of your boat? It would lift it up and pull you along like a spinnaker.
Right.
And I think that is actually coming to fruition now.
You think people are doing it?
Well, I know they're doing it to break speed records with sailboats. And they don't have a mast, and they just have a huge kite up there, and then they have a boom that shifts around so that it's, not tipping the boat over sideways.
Sure. Oh, Tassie is Tasmania.
I did not go to Tasmania.
Okay.
My business started to fail, and I had to get back.
Yeah, to get back. Yeah.
Yeah, it was when I got back, payables outweighed receivables 11-1.
Wow. Way to pull it back, dude. Pull it out. You pull it
I had
off.
a $250,000
went as far as you could. Yeah.
I had a $250,000 line of credit that I'd lined up, with the bank that I could use at any point in time.
Yep.
I renegotiated payback schedules with vendors and maxed out that line of credit, paid off my bills, and saved the company with the Tesla series. If anyone remembers the Tesla series, had that not been successful, Synergistic would have gone bankrupt.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go, man. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave, it's long speaker cable, short interconnects. You're the first. He's asking a common question here.
No, you want long interconnect, short speaker.
I'm sorry. Yeah, long interconnect, short speaker cables. I read it backwards. Of course.
Correct.
Yeah, line level. Otherwise, you're messing with the impedance and the other.
There's a lot of issues, sound engineering issues, why you don't want long speaker cables.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's very measurable.
Yep.
As to why it fucks up the dampening factor. So you lose bass control, it rolls off high frequencies. It's not good.
Yep. That's why you see the monoblocks on the floor right next to the speaker, Dave.
Correct. Well, you also don't want speaker cables too short. I think 6 feet is about what you want them to be.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yep.
If you've got your monoblocks right there and you have to have a really short speaker cable, great. But about 6 feet is ideal.
Yep.
For a speaker cable.
6
to 10.
Mm-hmm.
A little shorter, a little longer is okay, but 15, 20-foot speaker cables, no bueno. I mean, we'll do it better than anyone else would, but it's not ideal.
Yep.
'Cause all my cables are low in capacitance and things of that nature. So
Cool.
I don't know why the heck.
You're trying to find more photos?
Yeah, there's a great picture. Yeah. Oh, I know where. Anyway, yeah, keep.
You're a car guy too, so you used to track a Corvette, I hear.
C7 ZR1 2019.
Oh, that thing's a beast.
And
ZR1.
then, yeah, ZR1. And they advertised it as 755 horsepower, but when I dynoed the stock car, it was 750 at the rear wheel, which means the general was lying to spare our insurance rates. The car's north of 800 horsepower stock.
Wow.
And to make the car work, you have to get the right alignment. You have to run a fair bit of toe in on the rear tires, but surprisingly, you need a little bit of toe in on the front tires as well.
Toe in or negative camber?
Toe in.
Interesting.
So that you're like pigeon toed.
They're like this.
Correct.
Wow.
A little bit, a couple degrees. Yeah.
To give you a little more of a pinpoint.
No, so that you don't overdrive the back end and start fishtailing and wipe out.
Interesting.
It's a huge amount of power to put to the rear wheels. So it slows down the steering response a little bit.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So I really worked hard to figure out how to successfully track that car. And I was very successful. I was routinely beating GT3 RSs, McLarens, tight tracks. I could not beat a Lotus. I could not beat, if the guy was any good at all, I couldn't beat a GT2 RS. But that's a $500,000 car.
Yeah.
But now that I'm into motorcycles, a Harley performance bagger is more fun than any Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to have even more fun, you get Ducatis and MV Agusta and stuff like that.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, we will ride before
Here we go. Here's one of me out in the middle of the ocean.
Oh yeah, go closer to it. Oh wow, look at that, dude. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's so amazing that you did that all by yourself. I don't even think I could ever have the balls to do that shit, bro. I'd be
because I'd always wanted to. I'd read a book when I was a kid.
Did you do sailing? Did you do sailing before that? Did you grow up sailing?
I mean, we would sail 20 some odd miles to Catalina sometimes, but no.
Okay. So you got it in your blood as a kid.
I enjoyed sailing, yeah. But it was just something that I wanted to do, and I thought maybe Synergistic was going to go out of business anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go sailing because I couldn't think of anything else to do.
Yeah, that's great, dude. Yeah, awesome.
And it was like one of these, sometimes I get in a flow state and I just know that if I do this, it's the right thing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And like starting Synergistic was like that. And everybody thought I was nuts. I was in my 20s. I'm making over 100 grand a year in the 80s and early 90s. And I live and I'm renting a place on the beach in Newport, and I'm driving around in original BMW M3, and I got all these hot chicks and all this money on the. They're like, what are you doing? You got it made, right? I'm like, nah, I don't have it made. And I knew it's what I had to do, and I did it, and it was absolutely the best thing I could have done.
Yeah,
I could not, for my personal skill sets, I could not have picked a better path than Synergistic research for me.
Yeah, that's great.
If I'd been a different guy, being a commercial real estate developer would have been good or something like that, but that just wasn't me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And I loved audio, I loved music, and I just poured myself into it 100%.
Yeah.
And I lived on a futon in my first factory.
Yeah, I eat a lot of ramen noodles.
It sucked, and like I would scrounge quarters together and go to Taco Bell because they'd have like 50-cent tacos or some shit.
Yeah. I remember eating the ramen and buying cases of them or whatever, and eating ramen noodles and trying to change it up. Like, I'm gonna make one with squirting ketchup packets in there to try and like flavor it, just to try and change it up. Oh my
Yeah.
God. So glad made it out of
Yeah.
that. Someone asked here, do power cables have an ideal length as well as the speaker cables? Speaker cables would be 6
Well, no,
and
because a longer power cord has more time to do what it's doing, to
mhm,
stabilize that energy field around the cable, the waveform. So I have not found any. We make a cable called well, it's not a cable, it's called a power cell 1, or power cell 2.
mhm,
And it's an active power cell at the end of of a power cord that we make.
mhm,
And so you can plug that into the wall if your plug-in is, say, far away from your, or let's say you want to plug your amp into your power cell with the rest of your system.
mhm,
And you're like maybe a Galileo or SRX level guy.
mhm,
Well, a really long SRX XL speaker power cord is going to cost you a lot of money, right?
mhm.
And it would be ideal if that amp is plugged in with the rest of your system into the exact same circuit on the exact same power cell line conditioner. So everything's
Yep.
exactly in sync.
Yep.
So you could buy the really long SRX power cord, but what I advise people to do is to save thousands and thousands of dollars and get a long power cell 1,
Okay,
which
so
is like a
the
power
length,
conditioner. Plug that into the power cord
yeah, and then have that be
conditioner,
the long
and
one.
then plug the SRX into that and have a normal 5-footer and
I got
call
you.
it a day.
Got you.
And then with all that money you save, get like a tranquility base or something, and that'll make a huge difference. Get
Yeah.
something else from the catalog. Pay attention to the various known areas of synergy that we address in our catalog. You don't have to buy the most expensive solutions, but you should pay attention to all of these different places where you can apply synergy to a system. If you are that guy, right, that has that kind of money, then great. Yeah, buy all my best stuff. Don't cheese out on that. And if you can also get the solution, go ahead, do that too, and get your Magico M9s. That's awesome. But if you can't do all that, most of us can't, just pay attention to the different areas of synergy: ground, AC, cables, acoustics, and the mechanical vibrations and electromagnetic fields around components. Pay attention to those things. You'll have great sound, and do it with my more affordable solutions. And spread
Mhm.
it out instead of spending it all on, oh, I really want these interconnects or these speaker cables. Oh God, I read this review. Well, yeah, they are great. But you'd probably be better off, unless you can do the power conditioning and the ground conditioning and all that, maybe buying a little more affordable cables and saving some of that money and using it for ground conditioning and power conditioning. Does that
Got
make
you. Yeah.
sense?
Yep.
Yeah,
Sure.
spread it out. Because which leg is most important on a three-legged stool?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
They're all important. The stool doesn't work without it. Well, the stereo may work, but when when you really start to eliminate these major areas of compression and noise in the system, the sound just becomes unreal. And electronics today are better than they've ever been, and so they have an inherently lower noise floor. So when you reduce all the noise that's getting into the system outside of the boxes, outside of the components, the sound just becomes unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't believe it. You can't believe what you're hearing. It doesn't sound like a stereo. It sounds like surround sound, because there is all that phase information in the mix,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
was there at the venue,
Yep. Yep. I'm
right?
with
It's
you.
just, yeah. So
Okay. So Dave asked, watching the wave did watching the waves in the ocean on your sailing trip give you any insight into wave propagation and interference as it relates to audio?
yes,
That's
hundred
pretty cool.
percent, 100%. Because you would know when you were getting closer to land, because you would start to see refractions off of islands and things and ripples and
Oh
stuff.
wow.
So, and I believe that if you can observe a waveform in one area, there will be carryover into other waveforms that you can't observe, because everything's on a spectrum, everything's interconnected. So yeah, 100%. Like, my higher end cables, I separate them and carbon fiber discs so they can't crosstalk. They're not all bunched up together.
Got you.
And I did that. If that didn't directly come from sailing, it wouldn't have come about if I hadn't gone sailing. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Let's see if I've got any other questions, because we're closing in on 2 hours, so that's enough, man.
Well, it was great. I thank you for inviting me. It's a lot of
You
fun.
bet. Yeah, thanks for joining us, man.
And for everyone out there, thanks for listening. You and I, we need to meet up in Cherahalla area, Cherahalla
Yeah,
Skyway,
Skyway.
and we can do broadcasts at night and talk about the motorcycles. Maybe even put on some 360 GoPros and
Oh, there you go.
put some stuff out. That would drive a lot of eyeballs and be fun.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
You smoke
So
cigars or no? Oh no,
no,
we don't want to get you hooked on ciggies again, bro.
no, just marijuana, bro.
Yeah. Right on. Holy shit.
Actually, I don't smoke it. I eat gummies, but yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
right on.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right. Well, everybody says thank you. And thanks again for joining us, man.
Thanks to
Appreciate it.
everybody, and I hope to be invited back.
All right, man. Cheers.
Take it easy,
Thanks.
bro. Thanks.
All right,
Bye.
man.
Bye.
See you.
Bye, Bo. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.